Khalistan radicals and extremists in Canada appear to have now walked to a bigger low this time. The biggest tragedy, the terror attack that took place in Canada, was about, remember, the Kanishka bombing of the aircraft that led to 329 people dead. But this time, when there were Canadians and Indian origin Canadians who were organizing a memorial service on the 39th anniversary of the bombing, it was an attempt to disrupt that memorial service, as is being alleged, by the Khalistan radicals who arrived at the same site. The incident raises several questions also on Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's soft approach toward these Khalistan extremists. It is journalists and activists on the ground who not only documented and recorded these videos but questioned these Khalistani radicals, asking why are they there at that point and why are they trying to disrupt the memorial service. Remember that the Canadian government even paid tribute to Hardeep Singh Nijjar, who is a designated terrorist.
The Kanishka bombing underscores the urgent need for a unified global response to combat terrorism. It is a reminder that terrorism knows no borders and that international cooperation is essential in preventing such tragedies. Governments, security agencies, and international organizations must work in concert to disseminate and dismantle terrorist network, disrupt their financing, and counter their twisted ideologies. In conclusion, the Kanishka bombing is a somber reminder of the destructive capabilities of terrorism and its profound impact on humanity.
Now, this ground report that you see is by journalist Daniel Boardman, who's been extensively documenting the rise of the Khalistan radicals and how they're gaining ground in Canada. I want to now bring him in. He's in fact joining me right now in this telecast. Daniel, as these visuals play on our screens, what precisely did you see? If you can help explain, because wouldn't the Kanishka Memorial Service be about an issue which is Canada's biggest tragedy? Were there these pro-Khalistan extremists trying to disrupt even that service?
It is the biggest terrorist attack in Canadian history. 280 of our citizens were murdered by Khalistanis. And today was the 39th anniversary of that. So yes, the Khalistanis did try and disrupt. I will not say they disrupted the service. They tried and they failed and they were pushed back. I got there early because I had posted that I was going to come and pay respect because I think it's important for all Canadians to do so. And many people did, and many Hindu organizations and Sikh organizations and Jewish organizations promoted it, and there was a very good turnout. But when it went public, the Khalistanis then decided yesterday to try and hold a memorial service half an hour before we were. So I had gotten there early to make sure that this didn't happen. And because the victims' families had a permit, the Khalistanis tried to pretend that they had a permit to be there. So when I saw them sort of setting up and coming and I saw cops around them, I went to go confront and sort of explain, because it might not come as a shock to anyone here, the Canadian institutions are at best clueless when it comes to Khalistani terrorism. So the Khalistanis kept trying to come closer and closer to the memorial, and it was sort of incumbent on the people there to sort of push back and set a line with the cops that, okay, these are the people who committed the terrorist attack. They're praising the mastermind, and these are the victims. You can't let them come and harass the victims. So, I will say they did try and disrupt, and they had to go farther away, but if we didn't stop them, they would have, stood right on top of the memorial and done a whole Khalistan Zinbad shenanigans. But luckily, the people there got it together and forced the police to move them away from the memorial service, so they could not actively disrupt, but they did have every intention of doing it and trying to get as close as they possibly could to doing so. And it's shameful and dishonorable on their part. I mean, absolute travesty of human behavior to harass the victims of a terrorist attack. But I am proud of the community that did come band together and push back and sort of ruin their plans to disrupt. And we actually did have a meaningful memorial service, and it was a great display of unity between different communities and Canadians sort of united against terrorism. So I will say definitively they did not disrupt the service, although they made every attempt to do so.
Well, that's great. I think that's incredible, but that's also because of people like you, Daniel, and all those who were present, Hindus and Sikhs included in that memorial service, who want to remember who died in that bombing and of which Khalistani extremists are accused of. But in this case, what I fail to understand, Daniel, is what is the situation on the ground? Because journalists and activists like you are documenting, trying to raise your voice against how Khalistan radicals are gaining ground in Canada, but the Canadian government instead is paying tribute to Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a designated terrorist. What do you see politically and law and order wise in the country with regard to the Khalistani extremists?
Yeah, I mean, the rise of Khalistani infiltration in our politics is terrifying and well documented. It's hit every major political party. I mean, we have the leader of the NDP, who is, three-time denier of the Air India bombing, pushed the conspiracy, been palling around with multiple violent Khalistani terrorists. So that kind of shows you where the establishment's mind is. And the Khalistanis have successfully infiltrated over the last 40 years and pushing and pushing and pushing, either due to, apathy or corruption, whatever avenue that's been available that they've taken. So the culmination of that is Hardeep Singh Nijjar was honored in Parliament, a man who was denied entry to Canada twice and then somehow got entry a third time, and then again on the no-fly list, and again head of the Khalistan Tiger Force, and then this guy gets a moment of silence. So there's a confluence of reasons as to why that happened, and it's not just on the Khalistani issue. We see the streets are marked with Hamas supporters, and we have Hezbollah flags, and we have churches are being burned in our country. There's a multitude of problems in Canadian institutions and Parliament, and these are some of the manifestations of them. So it's a lot of reasons, but the soft answer, the quick answer is, Khalistanis have infiltrated every political party because the Canadian political system is rather easy to infiltrate if you have the money and the will to do so.
All right. Have to say, Daniel, you did not just document or record these videos. You also confronted the cops. You confronted these radicals as well. So more courage, more power to you. And thank you for speaking to India Today Television this morning.